my mind is being blown right now. Like, is this magic? I genuinely feel like my voice, something is happening here that's so much easier.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Why do I know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but we never teach this to people?
Eavesdropping on Sev Ohanian is an experience because he's able to string together storytelling elements, timelines, and critical thinking at such an alarming pace. I'm honestly in awe of the way his brain works. He's both a writer and a producer, and you may know him from his films Searching, Missing, Run, and other films made together with his partner Ryan Coogler for Proximity, Space Jam, Judas and the Black Messiah. I am so excited to bring you this conversation and have a direct line into Sev's brilliant brain. Hey, hold on. Before we get to the good stuff, would you just take a moment, like this video, and subscribe to the channel? It really helps us out. And then also you won't miss any of the exciting weekly conversations I'll be posting. Thank you. Welcome to Unmuted, where we explore how our voice and accents are so much more than just words. I'm dialect coach Audrey LeCrone. Sev Ohanian, thank you so much for being here, and cheers.
Oh my goodness, cheers, Audrey. When you first told me you were thinking of putting together a podcast, I was excited, obviously, but you know, hundreds of people have told me they're gonna put together a podcast, and of the hundreds, the one who has pulled it off the most impressively is you. So I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being so supportive of me through this journey. Sev brainstormed with me in the very first beginning of it. I was like, hey, Sev, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. You've done a podcast for Proximity Media.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
But I mean, what's cool is that like, I mean, I don't have to explain to you how great your idea is, but like, in your job, like you work with voices and accents and dialects, and you know how to kind of get the right, you know, authenticity in a voice and in a performance, and it makes perfect sense to translate that to a podcast. Like it literally makes perfect sense.
Right. So, since this is a voice podcast, we're gonna start out by using our voices correctly. Now, when you go to speak on something, do you ever have any sort of rituals you do to warm up your voice? Or to prepare?
My God, that's a great question. I don't know if I've ever like consciously thought of something, but I kind of have to clear my throat quite, you know, severely. I'll go like a, like get that phlegm or nasaliness out of it. I do that. I don't know if I do any of like the, you know, the la 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 la, like I don't know about any of that stuff, but if you have any tips, I'd love to hear them, please.
All right. So instead of doing that, let's hum.
Okay.
We're just gonna hum, but we're gonna I want you to put your hands on your belly.
Okay.
Sit back on the couch here. And we're gonna hum into our belly, and we're just gonna go up and down with the voice. For those of you listening, do it with us. And especially when you go down, just try and feel the voice in different areas of your body. And then we're gonna release it out. We're just gonna go in different pitches. We're trying to get the voice and the breath to go together. Ha, 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 so that it's easier for it to come out without any sort of tension. And it just comes from here. So if I press my belly, I can go and it'll affect my voice because I'm breathing deeply. Yeah, and another thing you can do that I really like is to just do a yeah.
Wow.
Kind of a silly thing, but
wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just in my head, but I do feel like my voice is...
Actually, it's more resonant. Yeah.
Yeah, what? This is... I'm like losing my mind here. This is insane.
Yeah, I don't only teach actors. I actually teach, like I have a senator, I teach public speakers, I teach diplomats, I teach teachers, doctors.
I'm sorry, can I just like, my mind is being blown right now. Like, is this magic? I genuinely feel like my voice...
It's more resonant.
It's something is happening here that's so much easier.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Why did I not know this? Why did I not teach, why do I know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but we never teach this to people?
This is why I have a podcast on voice, because no one talks about the way we speak.
Dude, I feel like the next time I'm gonna be speaking somewhere, there'll be like a small crowd waiting, and I'll not know that my mic is hot, and then they're all gonna be hearing like, and then
and you know what? They will be better for it because they too will know that you have to do a little something to warm up your voice.
That's incredible, man. Oh man, I'm gonna listen to every episode. I need to learn all the tricks.
Okay, a lot of people so far have been doing like tongue twisters. And I'm not a prescriptive teacher, so I'm not like, this is what you need to do.
Wait, what's a tongue twister like? You know,
Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said the butter bitter, you know.
Or that one, yeah. Okay, but you're saying that's...
She sells seashells on the
But those are like thumbs up or thumbs down for those?
If you need to work on articulating, like if people are having trouble understanding you, or you just need to kind of wake up your mouth, then yeah, you can do those.
Okay.
But if you need to work on actually resonating in your body and being in your voice, and speaking without tension, then different ballgame. I think there are a lot of scientifically proven and scientifically backed ways of opening up your voice and your breath. But as far as the prescriptive stuff, yes, there's so much room for new techniques and new ways of teaching. And there's kind of, in the voice world, which is a very small world, there is a revolution right now of teaching to where people are and helping them understand themselves and their own voice before trying to prescribe an accent or correctness.
Wow. I mean, I'm fired up. This is cool.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. It's what I spend all day thinking about, so I'm glad that someone's interested. But anyway, we're going to do an icebreaker question.
Okay.
Which is, it's very important and very serious.
Okay.
What accent do you find sexiest?
Okay, what accent do I find sexiest? Yeah. I will say my wife's, first and foremost, okay? She has I mean...
Wow, shout out to wife. Wait, I forgot her name.
Natalie Kasabian, yes. She has, I would guess what you call like a standard LA, American accent. But if I think about like the accents that cause me to lean the most forward, man, I'm gonna name actors or characters. That might be easier. Like, there's an amazing Iranian actress named Shoreh Aghdashloo. Do you know, familiar with her at all? She's been in like a bunch of. She's like in the TV show The Expanse. She's been in a ton of stuff.
Okay.
Bit of an kind of like an iconic actress. I think she may be in her 60s. She also has a really iconic voice that she's known for, but I'm not talking about the voice. She has a very thick Persian accent that I really find like mesmerizing is probably the best way to put it. I had a chance to meet her once in person, and I was like, I just kept asking her questions just to keep her talking because I found it so, man, I don't know how to explain it. Like it almost makes me think of like like an alcoholic cocktail, the smoky ones. Like that's what her voice reminded me of.
The next question is why? Why is that sexy to you or really pleasant?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think I have a generally intimate relationship with accents, dialects in general, and a lot of it comes from my cultural upbringing. I'm Armenian American, and being an Armenian in the diaspora, right, like outside of Armenia, it actually, accents and dialects is a very integral part of my personal identity. And I think this is not unique to Armenians. It probably applies to so many cultures, especially diasporas, but many Armenians had to flee the country of Armenia about 100 years ago due to a horrific thing that happened called the Armenian Genocide. And what happens almost always in any genocidal situation, people become a diaspora, they flee, they become refugees, and they have to, as a people, just kind of spread across the world. And in Armenians' situation, there was kind of like three like fractures of the people. 1/3 more or less stayed in Armenia. A third kind of navigated through like Persia, so like Iran, things like that, and another third kind of went through Arabic countries like Lebanon and all that. And that has kind of created a situation where Armenians who may be, we're all the same from the same country, we have three extremely distinct ways of speaking Armenian.
Wow.
That would almost sound entirely like a different language, but it's the same exact language, same spelling, same everything. So me and my wife, Natalie, my family kind of came through the Iranian side. Natalie's family came through the Arabic side. So we speak Armenian almost differently. The beautiful thing about diasporas is by the very nature of people, over generations traveling the world, they're kind of picking up aspects of other cultures and this beautiful thing that happens where, they mix and match and the food becomes one and the dance and the music. So I just to like wrap it up, like I've always been interested in dialects because it's so unique to me and to my home. And now that Natalie and I have a son, we always joke about what he's going to sound like. And at one level, we think like, well, maybe he can grow up fully speaking both dialects. And again, we're talking about a single language here, but I guess that's what you do, right? There's so many ways you can speak English. So just to answer your question, I think to me, like it's the storytelling that comes with someone's dialect that I'm always drawn to. When I think about those actors I mentioned, like you could just feel that culture emanating through how they speak English.
I love that. And that's what I'm always trying to get with someone's character too. Like if they're working on an accent, like I want to know their story from their accent. It's not just an accent, it's where they come from. It's who loved them as a child. It's what TV they watched if it's in that era.
Yes.
It's everything. What their friends sounded like. Most of all, a child will sound what their friends sound like.
Not their parents in your experience.
No.
Huh.
No, according to science.
My sister and I certainly do not sound like our parents. So I think you're right. You're 100% right in that front. And we did pick up from our friends. Man, that's really fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Now I wonder, like, where did chicken and egg, which friend initially, like, how does that accent even begin?
It's probably going to end by the time you're 12.
Interesting.
So your accent is going to kind of be set by the time you're 12.
Yeah, it's funny because like I have, one of my mentors / professors is an amazing guy named John Watson, who was a professor at USC, great producer himself. He's got a really thick British accent, and he came to America when he was like 18, and I'm like, man, it's been like decades, and it's still there. Like you're saying, whatever accent or dialect you speak by about age 12, that becomes a default. Can someone change it through like sheer force and will?
Actors do all the time.
But like make it their default, or will they always rubber band back to what they were at 12?
I think that probably depends person to person. I'm sure. I mean, language and dialects. There's so many anecdotes, so I'm sure there are situations where that has happened.
Can I tell you a story?
Yes, please do.
So as you know, as you mentioned, I'm a producer, and I came up as an indie producer. So making movies for like no money, like $5 budgets. The first movie I did with Ryan, Fruitvale Station, where Ryan and his wife Zinzi, who we started our company Proximity. But I made a movie in Louisville, Kentucky, and people speak a little bit differently in Louisville and Kentucky. And I grew up in LA more or less, so I guess I have an LA accent. But I was having the hardest time making deals for this movie. It was a very low budget movie, really fun, faith-based movie with a really great group of people, but we just didn't have the budget. It was a humble production. But we needed to make deals across town, and I was calling around trying to get things for cheaper, and I was having the hardest time. And then I just started consciously trying to speak like the people on the other side of the phone. Yeah. And I was trying very carefully to be respectful and not be a caricature, but I started saying a little bit more of like, oh, hello, ma'am. Yes, please. Oh, man, y'all are so kind. Like, and I swear, Audrey, I got the deals. It was amazing. Like, little by little, I think people sense the familiarity on the side of the voice, and maybe I sounded less like some asshole producer who came to try and take advantage of them, and more of like, hey, it's just someone, maybe they could see themselves in me a little bit. But I remember I was kind of shocked that it was a thing that I was doing on purpose. It was working, and I swear throughout the course of being in town for a few weeks, it did naturally start seeping into how I spoke with everybody.
Well, okay, so humans are very tribal, right? How we see things is usually it's us and there's them.
Right.
Oftentimes, and we can be educated and go above that and cross barriers. But speech is something that no one really talks about in that respect. So it's still this tribal feeling of like, this is our accent, this is us, and this is them. This is their accent. And what I'm trying to do is blur the lines a little bit. There's so many different kinds of prejudices in the world that we are aware of and that we can move past. But accent bias is something that's not talked about.
Wow.
And so when you speak differently than someone else, they immediately are able to judge, and it's okay to judge still.
Right. Dehumanize you to an extent because it's not one of us.
Right.
Wow.
So now all of your films that you and Ryan do for Proximity, now you can be conscious of that.
Oh, big time. No, absolutely. No, we're doing something that's going to be in the South pretty soon. So it's like we're really taking, stock of doing the research and
Right.
listening to music from that area and just trying to make sure that we enter it with a little bit more knowledge than just we don't want to just show up somewhere and next thing you know like, hey
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, and that's a thing too of like Southerners get told that their accent sounds stupid a lot of times.
Right.
And so whatever Southern accent they have, a lot of times they feel like they need to change it. And so that goes along with this accent bias stuff. I'm trying to make it okay or make sure that people realize that having an accent is beautiful and wonderful and represents who you are and where
Yes.
you came from and your community. So as a producer, you've seen a lot of incredible actors. You've witnessed a lot of people embodying these roles and playing really incredible characters. What have you noticed with them embodying accent work?
Just to speak about Judas for a moment, like we worked with the incredible Daniel Kaluuya on that film, and we were extremely integral, I think, to that process. I think for me, I used to think the actor becomes the character when they put on costume. It's like, it's undeniable. You see your actor buddy, now he's wearing tights. Okay, he became a superhero, like no question. And I think even with Daniel, like he wore some of the iconic, Judas the Black Messiah is a true story about Chairman Fred Hampton and the Illinois Black Panther Party in the 60s. I will say I'll never forget the first time I heard him in person embody the voice. And that's when I was like, okay, this is out of control. Like,
Was that at the table read?
It was at the table read. It's rare in my, humble experience to be just blown away by a table read. And that was the case. I mean, I think I could probably share this now. It's been enough years. That film, Judas and the Black Messiah, was a movie that was not, I think it's easy to look at it now as a success story. Obviously won these amazing, well-deserved Oscars and nominations and all the accolades and a brilliant director, Shaka King. But at the time when we were trying to set the movie up, that could not have been further from the truth. Our budget, Audrey, was not probably all the money we needed. And I don't know what it is, but a few hours after that table read, that remaining gap in our budget was no longer a problem. This is a true story.
Way.
It's a real testament to our brilliant cast, Daniel, Keith, Dom, everybody. I think the Warner Brothers executives were blown away, and it was, and again, it's not to say that they had the money and they were hoarding it. It was, I think everyone was doing their job as they should, but once you saw this cast deliver what they delivered in a freaking conference room, no costume, no hair, no makeup, it was just pure unbridled performance, it became like undeniable. They used to say like you can kind of tell a movie has its shit together from the sound quality, and it's a thing producers often used to say. Like I think you can kind of tell if a movie has this thing together if like the cast evoke a really authentic voice, because it tells you that they took the time to appropriately bring on a professional like yourself. They took the time to give the actors room and space to prepare, and that it was something that was important to them. And I think it's undeniable. Again, in a movie like Judas, I think the work speaks for itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, we worked, I think Daniel and I worked for 2 months beforehand, and it makes all the difference in the world. It is something that I think is great not to be overlooked, because if you look at all the Oscars or whatever awards, most of the characters are going to have different accents for the movies that get nominated.
Can I ask you a question, just because we're about to prep this movie that's very Southern and it's my first time really in that space. Do you guys like for the casting process, I'm really looking for someone who is a good actor first and foremost, right? That's like the end all of like who
Absolutely.
I want to cast. So in the audition process, we don't find it necessary to have somebody come in having already trained on a particular accent.
Yeah.
It's like, come in, just, do you understand the lines, whether they read the full script or the sides? Like, we just want to make sure, like, can you make us feel something? Can you make us believe you?
Yeah.
And then, I'm just curious, how early do you work with an actor? Are you often there when they're auditioning for a part? Or do you come in almost always from the studio or from the production company saying, hey, this person is cast, work with them? Because sometimes, I guess here's a dumber question as a follow-up. Like, would you say it's possible to teach any actor any accent? Or are actors or people somewhat limited based on their own upbringing or experiences as to which accents they can accurately portray?
The correct answer I should be saying is yes, I can teach anyone.
Sure,
But
sure.
the reality is that some people's muscles are so tight.
Right.
And it'll take a long time and a lot of effort to change that.
Okay.
It's like the whole tension thing that we were talking about. Some people are willing to work on it and some people are not. It's a lot of work. It's introspective work and muscular work, because the way I use my voice or have to have throat tension or whatever, that represents something about me and how I grew up. And how you speak is how you communicate to the world and how you present yourself. So it's kind of a big deal. It's a big deal to change it. Have you ever spoken with a different accent?
No, not really.
Okay, it's weird, right? Yeah, I mean, you could, but it takes so much courage. It takes so much courage to change, because you have to fail. Like when Daniel and I started working for Judas and the Black Messiah, he was not great. We had to do all sorts of tricks and exercises to figure it out for both of us together. It was scary. Because at first we were like, oh, we can't find it. We can't find it. Ah! And then it kind of settled in a week before.
Bro, I don't know why I'm imagining in my head like a Rocky training montage.
Kind
of.
You
and Daniel.
Of like doing like weird weird tongue exercises.
I guess I'm also having a realization that like your accent is essentially the muscle memory of your vocal cords, I guess.
Your accent is the muscle memory of how you present yourself to the world.
God, man.
It's huge.
That's nuts.
It's huge. Like everything you do is tied to your voice. It's your voice literally and figuratively. So you're a writer, but also whenever you speak, that's what you're presenting to the world.
Yeah.
I didn't fully answer your question. You were asking for an actor. Oh, yeah. There. Oftentimes, actors hire me for auditions.
Okay.
Yes, and they'll do the accent, whatever it is, for the audition, just to show, because a lot of people are not as creatively minded or open as you are. And then I would say for your actors, acting, number one, definitely most important. Make sure they can act. Number two, for the accent, it's best if they can start as soon as possible, but also just make sure they're open to it. So when in your casting, just say, would you be willing to work on a blah, blah, blah accent?
Okay.
And then they can say yes or no.
Man, I'm still like, it's funny, my mom, who recently retired, she worked in the Los Angeles Unified School District. She has a fairly thick accent, somebody who came to this country late in life. And I know sometimes she often felt held back by that accent. It's sad, because like she was extremely like competent and like, exemplary with her work and all these things. And she often felt like opportunities would not be presented to her because of the perceived, you mentioned like,
accent
Southern
bias.
accent. That's
accent bias.
All coming to me. Like, I guess I never articulated that clearly, but is it possible to work with someone who's not a professional actor, who wants to drop their like ethnic accent?
That's half of my business. So that's what I've been doing the last year, because we've been on strike.
Wow.
I work with business professionals of all industries. I don't know, I've probably worked with hundreds and hundreds of people from literally every industry, because there's so much accent bias, and I've heard so many dozens and dozens of stories of like, hey, I work in the oil industry in Texas.
Right.
And people say they can't understand me, but English is my first language. I'm just from fill in the blank of whatever country. Or English is not my first language, but I speak perfect English. So it's, I would say, especially pervasive in the US, where people will say that you have an accent more than you do, and that's acceptable to say that.
Right.
They will pretend they cannot understand you when they do, and there are tests of it. Like their scientists will test this. They can understand every fucking thing. Yeah. And they just feel like they can't.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad, and so it's called accent bias.
Interesting, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny because like our son's name is Auden, A-R-E-N, but like the R is a little bit like a roll, like Auden. And I swear when we say that, people are like, it's what? Like R-N? It's like, it's just Auden, man, or Aaron or whatever. But like, I does sometimes feel like there's a...
Tell people, say it with a D.
Sorry, what?
No, tell people who are American to say it with a D. So the rolling R like that, ada, 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 that's the way Americans make a D. Da, 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 da. If you say Adam, da, da, Adam.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Okay, I'm totally taking that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anytime you have something, just
I
call
got
me.
You, for sure.
Send me a voice message.
I'm with you, for sure.
Hey, dude.
I'm hiring you as a birthday present for my mom, I think, this year.
Oh,
that'd be
but
amazing.
here's okay, so yes, I do that, but I always start my classes with any sort of business professionals. I tell them, listen, I will teach you an American accent, but I'm going to teach you how to put it on and take it off. Because this does not have to be your normal. There's nothing wrong with you. You are beautiful. You are wonderful. The way you speak is perfect. You speak this way because you speak more than one language, which means you're more educated than most of the Americans who are judging you.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So true.
So I will teach you this, but with that caveat that when you walk into a room, you're not lesser than, you're more than. You're more than.
Beautiful.
You have an accent because you are so smart. And you're so lucky to know all these languages. Yeah. So I will teach your mom on that condition.
Thank you. I'm writing a movie that is about a group of immigrants who come from different corners of the world. And
wait, do I need to sign the NDA?
no,
Okay, cool.
Your family. And part of the idea of the movie for us that was really exciting, it's about these immigrants who, again, from different corners of the world who kind of come together to pull off a heist related to immigration. I'll just leave it at that. But it was really important to us in developing this movie to have characters who you don't often see in these types of roles. Like, this is not George Clooney, it's not Brad Pitt, it's people you would almost never see in these roles.
Good,
and
I love
in
that.
writing the script, we wanted to kind of reflect that in the writing. And, I have a fairly good idea of how to write somebody who may speak broken English via Armenia. My writing partner, Anish Chaganty, he knows how to write that for characters who are maybe from India. But we did find ourselves in a bit of a conundrum if we wanted to write somebody who comes from the continent of Africa or South America or East Asia. We weren't quite sure how to reflect that in the script because it felt wrong to write their dialogue in like perfect English because that's not how we wrote the other characters. But we were also very trepidatious about like writing broken English in for someone who's from Africa or East Asia or whatever. So we kind of settled for like a note that we put in the script. Like, hey, note, we will absolutely have dialect coaches from each respective country, blah, blah, blah. So imagine that it's going to be like that. I'm curious, like, did we do the right thing in your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, you're respecting other people's cultures and language.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, what's the other option?
Yeah. The other option is to not write stuff like that and just write the usual stuff. But yeah.
No, but I think as long as you're doing it respectfully, because that's the same thing with me. Like, I'm coaching Daniel in this role. Like, am I of Fred Hampton's culture?
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
I am a pasty-ass white woman from Kansas. I'm from a town of 600 people. That is absolutely not my culture. So whenever I do work like that, I'm trying to approach it as culturally sensitively as possible and as accurately as possible. I like to hire people who can help, as you know, like we did on Ironheart, because I was like, no, am I from the Puerto Rican hood of Chicago? No, I'm not. But this guy is. Can I hire him to help me? And so that's always helpful. But whenever you have someone helping like that, they are an expert at the community and the culture and the language, but not necessarily how an actor can do that accent. So that's kind of where I find myself bridging the gap.
I love it, man. It's funny. We made a movie called Missing, starring the amazing Storm Reid. Thank you, Nia Long. There's a character in Missing. So it's about a young teenage girl played by Storm Reid who's looking for her mother who's suddenly gone missing while in Colombia. And she has no way of getting in touch with her mom, but she's able to get in touch with essentially a task rabbit in Cartagena. A guy named Javi, who's kind of like a guy in his 60s. He's kind of like a bumbling, seems like a bit of a, broke dude who's like doing this job just to make means, is not really good at the job. We cast an amazing actor named Joaquim de Almeida. And what was really fascinating is the way we wanted Javi to come across initially is, oh no, this character Storm, this young teenage girl in LA, is stuck with this guy. Like, he's a little bit, doesn't quite speak English, seems like he's simple. A lot of it has to do with the way he was speaking. He has a thick accent. They actually don't quite understand each other. She's like, what'd you say? And the idea was like, oh no, this is not good for her. But by the end of the movie, he's actually proven to be extremely intelligent, extremely resourceful, and kind of a very, very compassionate And at no point in the movie does he get better at his accent. He remains the same, what you would call broken English. And that was a really important character for me. It's actually my favorite character I've ever written because it's entirely inspired by my own father.
Wow.
Who, he came to this country when in his mid to late 30s, has made a career for himself, life for himself, but has never mastered English the way that you would expect. But it doesn't change the fact that he's incredibly intelligent, hard worker, compassionate, and to me, I was really proud that we can pull that off, because honestly, some of the people's initial reactions was wait, why is this character this way? And is this even a good portrayal of someone? And I just love that Joachim fully got it, man. So that's another.
So see, you're already working on accent bias and bringing that to the forefront of Hollywood. Because I want to see more characters, more leading characters with non-standard accents.
Yes.
That's what I want to see. Because that's more reflective of our life, of our world. And then that also breeds compassion.
Yeah.
And understanding that not everyone is American.
No, because you're right. Because I swear, in thinking about it now, those characters often would be comic relief, or villains in James Bond movies. They're so rarely the protagonist, if ever. I can almost think of no movie.
Even Disney cartoons. If you think about it, the protagonist is always having a standard American accent.
So right.
If there's any African American accents, they're played by animals. If there's a villain, they're gonna have some sort of non-American accent or a British accent. If there's a fancy person, they have a British accent.
That's wild.
Isn't it? It's again something we all need to be completely aware of. And you're the guy to change this. Look at you.
I'm telling you, I'm fired up. I want to go make some differences. I want to go make some change.
Well, you already have so far, and I'm so delighted to be a small part of your story at some point. You've made incredible work, and I cannot wait to see what you do in the future.
Thank you, Audrey. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, bring it in. Thanks for being here. Thank you for tuning in to Unmuted. If you haven't already, please leave a comment, and subscribe. See you next time.